Despite all this noise,
we're here.
We are here.
Podcast.
Val and Chad.
Val and Chad, Chad and Val. Here we are. Excited for our episode today. We are talking to some friends of ours who people may know a couple different names by, I guess, at this point. We're bringing them here today as CHROMEBODIES.
Yes.
But you may know them formerly as Hotel Garuda and Manila Killa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two people that I've known for almost a decade now. It's
wow.
Unbelievable.
That's cute.
Did their first show together in 2014 at the Moving Castle Showcase.
Yeah.
And many things have moved. We've all gone different places, separated, reunited, and it was great. It was great getting a chance to talk to them, especially because you and I both have great relationships with the guys. So.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see people that are friends, but also artists kind of grow and evolve. And it feels like we're catching them at a really fun time because obviously they've just announced CHROMEBODIES, their new project together, after a 5-year break after breaking up as Hotel Garuda. And if you haven't checked out the music yet, highly recommend. It's very fast, very intense, and honestly pretty funny and has like a tone of humor that they tell us a little bit about, like where that energy is coming from. And
Sweat season.
Yeah,
you'll
hear more about what sweat season is and their opinion on sweating on the dance floor.
Yeah, and well, it was great. This was the first interview that they did together as CHROMEBODIES.
Yeah,
and we were honored to be the first people they talked to about it. So, hope you enjoy this sit down that we have with CHROMEBODIES.
So one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, but my close friends and like my close circle all know this. I was diagnosed with a form of epilepsy. Pedro Cliquez. Hi.
Oh my god.
That's Petey Clicks. I was diagnosed with a form of epilepsy in my sophomore year of college, and fortunately, it's not photosensitive epilepsy, so it's not like the flashing lights kind. Although the irony of that being my condition as a DJ is not lost on me either. Like, I understand.
That's what I was
like, no, I get it. It's too rich even for me. But yeah, most of the time I stay on top of it with just medication and like regulating my sleep, regulating my nutrition. But sometimes during this episode, you might see me flail my arm a little bit or lose my train of thought. And that's because I'm having a momentary seizure. But it's all good because I've got medication and I'm fine.
That's great. No, I mean, I think it's really important to like talk about stuff like that because I feel like when you're just not exposed to it, you don't know what that is, or you don't know what that's like, or to be around someone who's
people are confused a lot of times. They're like, are you okay? Like, what?
Good.
Sometimes people think I'm like doing a bit. Like when I'll be holding something and I like throw it or like I'll like drop it or something, and they're like, ha ha ha. I'm like, what's so funny, big guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's something I've been dealing with, I guess, for 10, 12 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I never
not fun.
I never really knew that.
It's not fun, obviously, but like, you know, we don't ask for the bodies we get.
We're all dealing with something.
We all got something.
Yeah.
So if you're an epileptic watching this, you can do it too.
You can DJ too.
You can DJ too.
No, I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank
I
you.
really do. Well, I was going to ask you about iced coffee. This is your hobby.
Yeah, it is my passion.
Your passion. Sorry, excuse me, not hobby, passion.
It's
where did this start? Tell me everything you know
Is
about
passion
iced
like an elevated hobby?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
like
think it counts as
that's an
elevated
entry
hobby.
level as hobby.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
well,
wanna make sure.
I don't even know if it
I feel like it's like the process of a hobby. Like you get really passionate about it and then it chills out and becomes your hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I just got an espresso a couple of years back.
Yeah.
That's the extent to which I make coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like a fake when I see friends of mine with like
I was going to say, I was like, that's not what I was expecting you to
like
say.
big old espresso machines and shit.
I thought you were going to be like deeply like
No, like you guys know Rafi,
brewing
and Rafi is
thing.
like so into his
yeah.
like espresso pulling and shit, and I'm just like, nope, pod button.
Right.
And that's it.
Do you have any like across the Nespresso universe?
Like
there
what is my favorite pod?
Passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chiaro Scuro or something like that it's called.
Okay. What is it? I don't know.
It's like a double espresso pod. Because all the pods, even though they're roughly the same size, they use like little barcodes that they scan in the machine, to dispense the appropriate amount of water for that kind of pod.
Oh.
So that you can have like a cup of coffee pods. You can have like a single espresso shot.
Yeah.
And I figured out that the double espresso from this specific flavor is like my
It's perfect.
yeah.
I love that.
Perfect ratio.
Yeah.
I love that.
Passionate about
What
that.
about Chris? Do you have a beverage hobby?
Literally, the Vietnamese coffee packets from Asian stores.
Damn.
Oh, those are bangers.
And then,
Good.
yeah, I'll also just like make yerb from like the leaves as well, like
Oh,
every day.
wow.
Yeah.
You make it by yourself?
Yeah, I just brew it.
Good for
Do you have a gourd?
Yeah.
Is it
No,
hard?
I don't do all that. Like, we used to live with Robbie. He did the whole process of like sticking the leaves in, having the straw with like the filter. I don't
Yeah.
do all that. I just brew it in like a French press, and then that's it.
I mean,
Okay.
it
good.
yeah, that's still
Gets
pretty
a little
good.
hectic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've never watched the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know if I'm like putting myself on blast here, but I did watch a clip of a guy who's like a matcha master. It was like really interesting. So then I got really interested in how to do matcha at home. So I got a whisk,
You would
like
be
a
a
bamboo-
matcha guy.
bamboo
Yeah.
whisk, but it's got L-theanine in it. So it's like the caffeine. You get that like balance of the L-theanine, which kind of cools you down.
Yeah.
You know, it like kind of it doesn't
Oh.
give you jitters. So that's why matcha naturally it's pretty solid. Do you like matcha?
I
Why
mean,
would you say you look like a matcha?
I did.
you
That's
would?
not what I
kinda racially
said.
motivated, honestly, like-
You are putting words in my mouth. I said you would be a matcha guy. I didn't
Is that any
say you look like a matcha guy. Two different things right there.
Not quite the same thing.
That wouldn't be inaccurate.
I just feel like matcha, as far as like the caffeine spectrum goes, like matcha's like the most chill of caffeine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it
I'd
was
say
like
so.
it was
Yeah.
you were trying to
Like, because
throw
you're a
compliment
chill
my way.
guy.
Okay, thank you.
I was
Yeah.
actually going to ask you if you even drink caffeine because I didn't know for a
Oh,
second,
yeah.
But then
Dude,
Jacked
totally.
up.
Well, now that we got the caffeine flowing, shall we?
we shall.
Sure.
Welcome to All This Noise, which is our little podcast about music made by music people for music people. Excited to have you guys here as our longtime
Stoked
friends.
to be here, man.
Yes.
Thanks
Yeah.
for thinking of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chrome
Don't mind my
bodies.
ticks. I'm a little on edge, but not mentally. Just
All good. It
That's
just
what
gives
I
a
say,
little
yeah.
energy into it. You know?
great.
Keep us on our toes. I love it.
Yeah, right. Great. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, as friends, we've known you guys as Hotel Garuda, as Manila Killa, and I'm excited to have you guys here as CHROMEBODIES. I feel like this may be one of the first times you guys are doing like a press convo.
Yeah.
It is. It's funny
Convo?
because
Yeah.
we had this conversation about press and stuff, and we were like, we're not going to do any of that. But once we
Lies.
learned that you guys are doing it, we were like, you know what? Why not? Why not? Let's go for it.
That's
I
awesome.
very much appreciate that, and also wonder why did you guys make that decision? No press or not talk about things.
Yeah, I
yet?
mean, we just like kind of wanted to make the music like talk for itself.
Yeah.
Like we felt like we didn't really need to explain the project. Really, we just wanted to show it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of merit to that. You know, we talk about it all the time. I feel like journalism and press, especially in music and especially in dance music, is an interesting place. But like this show and a lot of other things that I hope are coming up are going to take it back to just more like grassroots and just like let's just talk about music in a not like no agenda, no fixed
Yeah.
narrative. You know, because I think that it's really tough to do press without the fixed narrative being like I'm promoting a record. You know, and I think we just want to kind of talk to you guys, especially about like a very interesting dynamic that has happened throughout the span of your career, where you started together, went off and did separate things, although like adjacent, and then now you're back together, and kind of wanted to, I don't know, like I know Val
Hear
has some
about
good
it,
questions too.
Well,
but-
yeah, and I was also thinking about, when we were looking into this conversation, I was like, I can't believe it's already been 5 years since
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
guys
since we split up.
retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hotel Garuda. Obviously, you guys have stayed friends and stayed
Yeah.
close through the whole thing, but I guess I'm curious, like what was that 5 years like? If you can sum it
So-
up,
So I
5
think
years of that.
Our last show together was Electric Forest 2018.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess we had sort of like come to that agreement that was going to be our last show, maybe like a month before, right?
Yeah, it
Something
was
like that?
pretty close to it.
It was pretty like near, and yeah, we were obviously like I was kind of dreading it, and it would have been nice to go out with a bang. Obviously, it wasn't like we didn't have like a massive crowd for our last show or anything like that, so it felt a little anticlimactic at the time, but
really emotional too.
super emotional.
I remember
yeah.
watching the videos. It felt like,
Yeah, it was definitely tough to put that out there. I remember like being so salty. The post announcing our split up was like, I think that got more likes and more interaction than any post we had ever put up in our entire
cool
career. I was
guys.
like, damn, where have you guys been this whole time? Like,
Everyone loves a dramatic announcement.
everyone loves the drama, right?
Yeah.
So that happened, and then both of us did our own thing. Truthfully, when we started the project, I was still very, very new to music production. So in like 2014, I guess, when we started working together, he was like teaching me how to produce on the go, and honestly doing a lot of the legwork when it came to technically making the music. So
how did you two meet?
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah,
I do like the story.
I feel like we've told this story a bunch of times. Of times, but we met in middle school in Indonesia. Both our families lived there at the same time. And when you're, I guess, in our parents' lines of work, a lot of kids go to these international schools in Southeast Asia, and we happened to go to the same school. We played for the same little league basketball team in seventh grade.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Seventh grade or eighth grade? I keep forgetting.
It was seventh.
We should probably get that fact on point.
Oh no, it's definitely seventh grade.
Definitely seventh grade,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So we played on the same basketball team. Didn't win a lot of games. Okay, we won 0 games. We tied 1 game and lost everything else. But that.
Wow, you could tie a basketball game.
In Little League, you can.
Little League rules,
God.
And then I guess we fell out of touch for a little bit. And when all of the people our age got Facebook, I think that's when we reconnected, probably like a year or 2 later.
Yeah, I think it was like in high school when we became like Facebook friends. But even then, we weren't that close until like college. That's when he saw that I was doing like the music thing, and he was super interested in that. And I think at the time, you were a photographer.
Yeah, I got into music through shooting for a music blog. And one of the people that worked at that blog was the man himself, Brett Blackman. So Brett Blackman was our mutual connect at that point.
Yeah.
And who is now our manager.
Well, it's so interesting because like we all kind of came from blog culture.
Yeah.
You started as a writer. I started as like part of a blog, and we all met kind of through right after the blog thing.
Yeah.
Kind of
in the fallout.
Yeah, like right into the transition to SoundCloud, and then individual brands and pages. So blogs were like important in connecting you on the music front with Brett, and then everything.
Yeah.
And then how did that kind of take form into something? Was it just mainly through Moving Castle, or?
No, it was just like a very gradual thing. So like my relationship with Brett started because we were working for the same blog. I just wanted to be involved in music in any capacity, so I wasn't really pushing my artist project. Rather, I was just trying to get out there and go to shows and stuff. So I was like doing interviews and photography and stuff like that. And then Brett noticed that I was making music as well. And then for like a year straight, he was like, let me manage you. And I had a like really bad experience with a manager before Brett. Like it was pretty bad. Like I felt taken advantage of.
Thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No names.
I mean, honestly, I don't care. But like he ran the blog that me and Brett met at. And then so a year went by and I was like, I don't want a manager. But then Brett was like, I'm just going to help you anyways. I'm going to send the music out to people. And then eventually the relationship grew, and I was like, all right, let's try this manager thing out again. And then eventually just ended up here.
That's cool.
So he left out a couple of crucial details, right?
Okay.
So
fill them in.
Yeah.
The way we got back in touch, I guess, and like talking to each other, he used to make progressive house mashups.
Nice. Yeah.
They were great,
era.
honestly, for what they were. They were awesome. I used to love them. And I remember I'm like, yes, I'll like my boy Manila Killa's posts on Facebook. My boy, show support. And eventually he had started doing his own actual production, like remixes and stuff. And I thought that was so cool because nobody in my immediate social periphery was doing that to a level that I could consider it. To a level that I could consider it. I could consider it music or like consider it actual art forms. And as soon as we got in touch on that level, I was like, hey, I would love to learn how to do this. So can you like teach me, I guess? And at some point, Chris was like, why don't we just do it together? Why don't we just start a new thing together? So that's how the working relationship started, even though really it was like him doing all of the production. It was me like backseat producing.
Well, that's sometimes how it starts too, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just getting the project together is also a huge part of it, you know? The creative, just the energy behind starting something together.
Yeah, and there was only so much we could do at the time because he was on the other coast. Like, we were on separate coasts, so it was kind of hard to get in the room together, which we actually never did. We actually, like, the first time we had met was for the first show that we were booked at Miami Music Week, and that was the first time we had seen each other since middle school, but we already had like a couple songs out, so
yeah.
It was
funny.
pretty crazy. Yeah.
What a funny experience.
Yeah.
So I love the origin story, and then let's go back to the 5 years break.
Yeah.
Post Electric Forest. At what point did you guys decide that there was maybe something still to do together?
I honestly think this all stems from like the pandemic. During the pandemic, it was a pretty difficult time we were roommates over the pandemic, and those 2 years were just, I don't know, I don't think any of us knew what we were doing. I don't think any of us had any direction or clear goal. But like the kind of music that we're doing now, I think stems from that eagerness to find direction from the pandemic. So yeah, like, I mean, it was only like in the last year where Asim started showing me this new kind of music, because we had been talking about working together again for a while. We were like, yo, let's make an album or something, but nothing like really clicked. You know, like we were both doing house music, but we were just like, I don't think it was like anything was sticking. So it was only up until like late last year is when Asim started showing me some 150 BPM stuff. And like when I first heard it, I was like, this is way too much for me. This is like jarring.
I
almost.
like red pilled him into going faster and faster. So like I think last summer was personally a bit of a transformative time for me. I think like in my personal world. And because of that, I feel like I was just throwing myself at a lot of new music and a lot of like new media in general. And I started to like get into a lot of breaks, a lot of like fast house, a lot of fast house music, a lot of fast techno. And I was showing Chris all this stuff, and I was like, "Yo, we should start making stuff at like, I don't know, 140 BPM, something like that." He was like, "Why don't we start at like 130?" I was like, "Sure." And then every time we would like make a little idea or a beat or whatever, it would like slowly get faster and faster and faster and faster. And I think the first couple of things we made were like 132, 133. And then before we knew it, I was just like, no, it has to be fast. It has to be like 140 minimum.
Wow.
And as soon as we sort of finished this first single that's coming out this week, I don't know when this is going to come out, so it may already be out by that time.
Yeah. Who knows? But it's either out or coming out.
Yeah. So by the time we made the first single, everything we were making was really fast for us.
Yeah.
Coming from the, generally 120-ish BPM house world, for us, like 140 was really fast. It's not the same speed as like Lil Texas, who I love, by the way. This is not shade.
No.
No.
Lil Texas stuff is like generally like 200 BPM.
Yeah.
So fast.
Hardcore is the name of the genre. I think that gets conflated with like hard style. Yeah. I know there's going to be a lot of names for genres. I feel like genres are only for the lay person to have entry.
Yeah, it's all kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
So we made the single that's coming out is like the first like fully fleshed out idea that we made.
And the name of the single is
Regenesis.
Which
is kind of aptly named if you think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're listening to this right now, make sure you either pre-save it or like it on Spotify right now to turn this timeless vacuum that we're in right now.
The timeless podcast vacuum. Well, I was going to say, because obviously when you sent me the music first, I was like, this is so different than anything that I've ever heard from you guys.
Did I send it all to you?
What's that?
Did I send it all to you or did Brett send it?
I think you sent it to me.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I was listening to it and I was like, I'm so curious where this is coming from. And you kind of mentioned, you said that you were going through something. I don't know if you're open to talking about any of the personal stuff that you were going through that led you to discovering
I think
the fast.
I think the speed.
The speed, exactly.
So I think for me, I realized over the course of the pandemic that I make music because I like to DJ. And as soon as the DJ part of that was removed, as soon as it was unavailable, I was like, I don't really want to make music anymore. So I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Can
I mean,
we
it was.
swear?
I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
doing this. Can we
Okay.
swear on this?
Yeah,
Swear.
I was like,
16
There's no rules
months
in
of
this
no.
podcast.
Yeah, I was
Swearing.
like, I don't know why the fuck I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I kind of just like feel like I'm going through the motions. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, to an extent, I still enjoy making house music a little bit. But like, I was telling Chris this, like, I tried to make a remix that was at like 125 or 124 BPM, and I like fell asleep trying to make it. I was like, this
Like,
is way too
actually?
slow. No, I legitimately fell asleep like in my chair. I was like listening to the loop, like passed out.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I was feeling like this disconnect between my artistic output and my DJ. Sorry. I was feeling a disconnect between the artistic output and the DJ personality that I had sort of developed and cultivated.
Mm.
And yeah, I felt like Garuda to me now means more of like a DJ persona where I curate and I be a DJ and not as much of like not as much of a as an artist project.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't feel as personally connected to it as like as an artist project.
Yeah.
So I still wanted to have something like that. And I guess, you know, Chris and I kind of have a lot of commonality in our tastes. So it kind of worked out at the right time. We were just like in each other's lives at the right time. At the
Well,
right
that's
place.
interesting because Chris, you just released an album that was a huge statement in your career, and I feel like probably the best work you feel like you've made. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And so then, how did you feel coming off of like the album and the tour to kind of take on a new?
I felt like I put so much of myself in that album and the tour that I just needed to do something completely different. I like after the album and the tour, I would, continue to work on the same kind of music, and it just like wasn't clicking for me, or I guess it wasn't exciting for me just because I had been working on that album for so long. Like I started working on that album beginning of the pandemic, and it came out last year, I think. So it was like a really long time working on the same stuff. So I think it was the CHROMEBODIES stuff sort of came from a desire for something completely new, fresh, something that we just don't see around us, because I felt like I was getting really boxed in with the house music sound. So I just felt like it was just me kind of breaking out of that mold.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate that because I think that everyone can relate to the pandemic being a time of people having a lot of like introspective thinking about what means what to them. And I appreciate that you guys are artists that are down to just experiment and try new things and like not feel the weight of what people expect of you to. Because I think that like that was a question that I had, because like I think with so many chapters of your guys' story, there's a lot of like pressures and opinions from other people. Like even just you guys separating, I'm sure, you mentioned on the post there were so many people commenting. And then it's like to come back and announce a new project. Was there any feelings that you had about like hesitations or worries about what people would say or react?
None at all.
Not at all.
We were like 100% confident in
Yeah.
the vision. We like really believed in the music and the branding as well, and we just couldn't wait to like launch the project.
That's exciting.
So it was super exciting.
To be honest, I feel like the first time we, I guess, launched a project together was not only our first time being artists and like having to helm a brand, it was also our manager's first time being a manager. So like really all three of us were kind of figuring out like what it took to be successful, or like what it took to just like make it work in this line of work.
Yeah,
I just wanted to party, honestly.
Yeah,
Back
I mean,
then,
like, dude, we
a
just
lot
wanted to
of
have
people,
fun.
yeah.
And like, I was speaking with my friend about this actually last night, and I was saying like, for better or worse, this sounds like a horrible thing to complain about. It makes me sound ungrateful, but like, we got so much done so early, and like, a lot of big things happened for us when we were just too young to appreciate them. I was,
Totally.
at least.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, dude, as someone who was there for the first Moving Castle show at the Lash, December 2014, it was like, I mean, I know for a fact that there were major managers and agents that were there that were like looking at what was going on with your collective, your music, and they're like, this is the future, of the industry. And when you start being kind of labeled with that kind of, those expectations, that, that awareness, and you're still also in a partying phase, also in a I just want to DJ and have fun phase, it's a lot to balance, And a lot of it did come true. You saw the music that was reflected on pop charts the next year was Moving Castle-esque, SoundCloud-esque, Lewis the Child-esque, you know?
Yeah.
It was like all of our friends, our circle, were finally getting that kind of like recognition pretty fast, you know? But I'm sure you guys can attest to the fact that that's also a ton for a young person to juggle.
I don't think I would like processed it completely, honestly. Like looking back now, I realized that I didn't understand like what was going on.
Yeah.
Same.
Nor did I know how to like handle it and scale up from there either.
Totally.
Like it was like a weird thing that had just never happened to me before. So
yeah, I mean, the T-shirts, you know, the
yeah.
iconography, like this stuff that was like, I mean, it's crazy because like I think the SoundCloud Gold Rush, you saw a lot of people that were just like really feeling themselves like super hard, super quick, because it was like this unbelievable, like, you know, springboard to like this new, but then what you kind of realize is like, oh, I mean, I'll say it for myself, like you're young, you don't know about like a business plan or like longevity or, you know,
that's what I was
these
going
things
to
that
get
you
to
kind
exactly.
of,
Like so the first time round, we kind of didn't really have a long-term vision. You know, we were kind of just doing things as and when they needed to be done, rather than sitting down and figuring out, look, how do we figure out the next year, right? How can we take as many resources as we have, as many connections as we have to like map out the next year of our life.
Right.
Because, I mean, you know, we're fortunate enough to be in positions where we could just work behind the scenes on this stuff for about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months, something like that. So like I might be jumping between timelines, but for the new project for CHROMEBODIES, we started working like kind of very loosely speaking on the new music in like September, October last year.
Okay.
And so October through March-ish was kind of just, actually October through December was pure discovery. It was like throwing paint at the wall, just figuring out like the sounds that we liked, the palettes, right? And as soon as we kind of had that down, we were like, okay, now we've just got to execute. So we had the palette down, and as soon as we had that down, we were just knocking things out.
Did that feel like
Cathartic.
you guys were going back to that?
Yeah.
that
it honestly,
Yeah.
I always draw this comparison. It felt like when I started working on music, like, you know, we completed stuff so fast, and I just felt so fulfilled with what we were doing, and I was just like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next.
Yeah. And,
So-
you know, even with our manager, like, you know, we all know our roles a lot better now, and we know exactly what roles each person needs to fulfill.
Okay.
And we're keeping such intense creative control over all of as much of the product as we can, that like now we're making all of the creative decisions between just the two of us pretty much. And wherever our manager can help, we get him to help. Wherever we can like bring people onto our team, such as photo, video people, lighting designers, et cetera, we've kind of got that like village that it takes to raise a baby.
Right. No, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, you were going to say something.
Well, yeah, I'm curious now, with all that being said, it sounds like, and I would love to know your thoughts on, do you feel like you have a really clear, like, year out plan, or further than a year out even, for CHROMEBODIES at this point?
Something like it.
Pretty
I think
much.
we have
Yeah.
enough music to put out a song a week for the next
And I know there's some
9 months.
plans as far as shows. You want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what you guys have been cooking up on
I
that
don't
side?
know if we can say much about like live shows, but
You did record the mix, right?
yeah.
Yes.
So we put together an hour-long video mix, which is supposed to represent what we're all about.
Yeah.
We rented out 1720 for a day.
Nice.
We got full production for it. We have like lighting, lasers, all that stuff. And it's funny because like I was thinking of the title for the video, and I was like, title should be, we rented a warehouse and played a show for 0 people. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the title.
It's literally like just the crew and us and these like mannequins,
Yeah.
which we spray painted chrome. They're literally chrome
Chrome
bodies.
bodies,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was our lighting designer's idea. Shout out
think,
Anthony.
I think all the branding and the language around what you're doing is actually very smart, and it's very fun. I think. Do you think a lot of the impetus for doing this was that there's just not as much fun with dance music, or there wasn't in this period that you were talking about, and you just needed to find something to bring that back? Because I'll say for me, like during the pandemic especially, like I had to find more interest in just like staying invested in music, you know?
Yeah, I mean, We weren't really thinking about it like that, honestly. I think it really stemmed from the name CHROMEBODIES. And when we're thinking of branding, there's so much you can do with that name. So one thing led to another. We just kept going.
CHROMEBODIES was not the first name.
No, we came up with a couple others that were just
horrible.
Horrible, absolutely
truly
horrible.
awful names.
Are there any you want to share?
Well, I think CHROMEBODIES is like the third iteration of the same letters, I guess. Like, we played with chrome and bodies like separate as separate words. We played with chrome body like as a singular item.
Singular. Interesting.
There was like Chrome Siren, there was like Chrome Unknown, but like none of them really like spoke to us like CHROMEBODIES did. And like the best thing about that name is that it's representative of like what you're gonna experience at a show. You're gonna be sweating. You're gonna be glistening.
People are shiny with sweat. That's why CHROMEBODIES.
Yeah, because the music sounds really fun. Like you guys are in your bag, and it's just coming out naturally.
Yeah,
you know?
we're just trying to be as shameless as possible.
Absolutely, like come for the speed, come for the fun.
Yeah,
and I mean, the remixes that you guys have chosen to do are eclectic.
Honestly,
the types of artists that you
bait,
guare
if you
picking.
think about it, like they're kind of like bait throwback remixes.
Yeah.
They're all kind of songs that probably were remixed. They were all remixed around the time that we were coming up, and they were popular around the time that we were coming up. So we're like, why not? Like, throw it back to that era.
Is there anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Also, like the smiley face thing. The more I think about it, it's like, you know, we're not the first people to use a smiley face as a logo. Like, no, we know that. Like, we're not out here pretending that that's like the groundbreaking like.
They came here to say they were the first.
Acid House would like to have some words with you.
Planting their flag.
It's not. Yeah, it's not as though we're the first people to use that, but like, you know, that image evokes such a specific energy that we wanted to use that in our iconography, in our brand, and the fact that it's shiny and chrome makes it look cool.
It does. It actually does look really cool.
Okay, I have a question because I feel like whenever somebody talks about like going to a show that makes them feel sweaty, warehouse vibes, it makes me think that you guys have been to shows where you've done that and felt that way. So now I want to know which shows those were for you in recent memory.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't go out enough.
Yeah, I have to like.
Okay, Chris needs to be taken out to a good
sweaty
sweaty warehouse
taken
show.
out. I watch a lot of YouTube videos though.
Same.
No, it's not.
I wonder. Okay, so I think for me the moment where like the techno switch like flipped for me was I think Crossed in March of last year. So I saw Sarah Landry there for the first time. I had never heard of her, and she was playing super early at the City Steps stage.
Yeah.
And I was so mind blown. First of all, I was like, this is really fast, and it makes me feel like I'm about to get murdered. And it was all like pounding, like incessantly pounding techno. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like new to me. Cause look, I don't want to shade an entire genre of producers or anything like that, but like I was getting really, really bored of tech house. And like tech house is at a point now where like everyone and their mom is making and DJing tech house.
Right.
So like I needed to experience something different. Otherwise I was going to go fucking insane.
Right.
So I spent the entire weekend at the City Steps stage. Saw Panpot, saw Sarah Landry, which I understand like in the broad context are more commercial names. Maybe they're not as like underground. But then because of that, I feel like I got into people like Trim, Shlomo without the H.
Shlomo without the H.
And then because of that, I feel like adjacent to that, there's like this whole melodic Eurodance, like tech trance thing going on, like DJ Heartstring, Narcissus, Marlon Hofstad, who used to be a G House producer or like tech house producer. Like,
but this was like your gateway. You know,
yeah,
that was your gateway.
Yeah.
The steps were, you know, your gateway.
Yeah, and then occasionally, I think I went to like a few raves. I think the first time I went to Blind Tiger in LA was like shortly after Crossed.
Yeah.
And actually, no, shortly before. And I think that the first time I heard like hard techno like that, I didn't get it. Like, I was like, I don't like this. Like, this makes me want to like.
Yeah, that's how I felt when you showed me this stuff.
Like, yes, I understand.
I'm scared.
I'm good.
Like,
I'm
pick
good,
me
man.
up.
I'm fine over here.
Yeah, I didn't get it the first time.
Well,
but like, now
but
it's all I listen to.
I think it's. I want to go back to what you're saying about like the tech house stuff. You know, because it's kind of what I was getting at with the other question. Is like, do you feel like within this space, like everything's like pretty derivative right now? There are a lot of people doing the same thing. Like, you know, how much of that plays into doing something like CHROMEBODIES, like you're saying, that's shameless. You know, you want to have just like the fun. Are we like? Is there like a post? Because like I feel like
Post Tech House.
Yeah.
For the record,
Like,
I don't think that I'm blameless in it either. If that makes sense, like
Taking some accountability.
I think that yeah, you got to do what you have to do to like keep the wheels turning and like pay the bills. I get it. Like, sure, I'll play ball. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do what I have to do to like keep the machine going.
Totally.
But at the same time, it would be nice to do something completely different
Right.
on the other side.
So do you think that this is any different than like the current state of dance music? Is it any different than it's ever been though? Hasn't this always somewhat been the case? You know?
I guess so, yeah. But I think what I like about what's happening right now is that anything from the underground is cool.
Right.
Like I guess there is no underground anymore.
That's what I was gonna say when you were saying that. I was like, what is the underground really?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's just because of the amount of, the amount of visibility that anything can have. Like, because there's like so many underground brands across the world that are doing, warehouse raves or things that were early Brownies Lemonade, early Boiler Room, but they have access to like amazing video footage, capabilities and hardware, so they can broadcast their underground thing and access a crowd of, tenfold than the amount of people that were in the room, right? So then I think that's what you're saying, like underground is in quotations sometimes if it has the visibility, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, beyond that though, I think, would you say that CHROMEBODIES is an underground project or is
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think we're pretending to be either. Like, like we want
That's
this.
interesting that
We
you guys
want
are
this to be
both immediately
polished.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want it to be polished. We want it to be like intentional.
Right. Right.
I think a lot of the maybe the appeal of underground is the unpredictability and like the sort of randomness of it, and that's the last thing we want. Like, we want everything to be done exactly on purpose, exactly how we want it to be done.
Right.
And yeah, I know it's kind of like not very cool, but like whatever, bro. We have a vision and we're like sticking to it.
Is the cool like from being serious? Is that kind of like what you were?
Yeah, I mean, like even with my Manila Killa stuff, for the past few years I've always been trying to curate this cool, like aesthetic or whatever. But with CHROMEBODIES, I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care about keeping up appearances. I'm just gonna do what we enjoy doing. So
yeah.
I have an interesting question.
I like that though.
I love. Again, I think it comes back to me thinking that you guys are just in a period of experimenting and just rolling with it. And my question for you guys, I've been sitting here trying to think about how to phrase it or ask it. But we're talking about tech house. We're talking about this thing that artists do a lot where they jump on a trend and they kind of go in.
Guilty.
I would say that, and I think a lot of artists are guilty of it. And I don't think it's any fault, really. I mean, it's like easy for anyone to eye roll when you're looking at it as a whole, but it's also understandable. Like, people like to experiment. People like to try new things. I would say that, it seems like we've been in a phase of like techno, like the darker stuff having a phase. So my question to you guys is maybe for like someone who doesn't understand faster music yet is maybe where Chris was, who's like afraid of it and like is listening to CHROMEBODIES for the first time being like, what is this? Like, is this just like a thing that you guys are going to try out? What would you say to them as far as that reaction?
honestly, like the CHROMEBODIES music that we've been making reminds me of my childhood. And I feel like at some point, everyone, when they get older, they're chasing that childlike wonder and like inspiration. And listening to this kind of music brings me back to that. Like just like shamelessly loving music like Bass Hunter and, you know, stuff like that that I was listening to when I first got into electronic music.
Yeah.
And it's just like chasing that wonder, really, that feeling of wonder.
I think that no matter what songs we put out, it'll always sound like our spin on whatever like genre or whatever vibe that we're chasing. And, you know, I think that's a two-sided coin to me, right? Like sometimes we want to emulate something so seriously because we like it so much. But the more you try to, I guess, chase that ideal or like that vision, the less it becomes like what you actually want to make.
Right.
And the less authentic it becomes.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is like make everything purely like from the heart or from the heart, I guess.
Yeah, and just like
instinctive.
not trying so hard. Like trusting our gut has been like the #1 driving factor with this stuff. It's not really thinking about, oh, what will people think of this? How will they view us? It's more of like, does this make us get up and start dancing? And if it does, then we're going to just roll with it.
Yeah, I feel like the thinking about how it's going to be received is like a working against yourself mentality.
Yeah, it kills creativity.
Yeah, because I'm on record for saying this a lot, but I think dance music is too serious in general, and I think that there's like a time and a place for it. But I don't think that people who are taking their electronic music seriously in this very artistic context should be absolved from any criticism or like people just not liking it. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's like a weird space that we've kind of, people don't want to kind of go there. But I think that's why, like, gatekeepers or, one of the things is like drum and bass. Obviously, we've done a lot of drum and bass parties. There's an entire, there's swaths of people on the internet who have a very particular, idea of what drum and bass is and are unable to liberate themselves from that frame of view, And I think it's really important for next generations to not have those hangups because it's not going to help anyone, like, proliferate this amazing music and get people on board.
Yeah. To an extent, I feel like the younger crowd is already more open-minded. I feel like the commercialization of techno or TikTok techno, whatever you want to call it, I might catch some heat for saying this. I love that shit. I absolutely love it, like unashamedly. I think like all of the somewhat cheesy techno remixes of like pop anthems and shit, love it. Inject it.
Yeah.
Does that any influence on this project as well?
Yeah, I mean, like scrolling through TikTok, over the last year, I just started realizing that people are speeding everything up, and it's kind of hot. So I think that played a big part in
it's
like.
Also a recession. Music gets faster in recessions.
Is that true?
Yeah, no, this is not made up. Like this is actually.
Tell me more.
True.
I want to hear more about that.
I'm surprised. I feel like you guys would know about this.
Okay, so we talked about this somewhat in an episode that we recorded, and I said something along the lines of, it wasn't about it being faster, but it's about after hard societal times, that music goes back to a really happy, comfortable place, which is why we see patterns of like, we go back to music that everyone loves. So it's like the house music thing, the Beyonce thing, like that's why that happened, is what some people argue, because we needed happy house music to get out of pandemic scary times.
Well, actually, to Asim's point, I was watching this video about Mark Fisher, this British writer, who was talking about in the 90s, jungle kind of came about as like a response to like this nihilism about, like Gen X's nihilism about, the future of Britain and stuff. And his argument was that people wanted to go to like these like urban, like, dark, derelict warehouses to kind of like have this like, to like get out their fear and this, they have this expression.
Like house music origin, right?
Yeah. So it was very dark though. Like the argument was that jungle and all this stuff was in an urban jungle, like in a decaying kind of like, it was their way of getting those feelings of nihilism out.
Yeah.
So I do understand what you're saying. It is interesting though, that dichotomy that while it is darker music, you do have, pop, top line and remixes kind of counterbalancing.
And like an unashamed euphoria that comes with that.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to hear more about the fast though.
Yeah, hear about
Tell me more about the fast.
I feel like even in my gigs and stuff, I feel like I start at higher BPMs and I end at way higher BPMs now. Like I still play a fair amount of house and like a lot of house in my sets, but Chris and I were talking about this recently. I think in my last show I played like maybe 6 or 7 house songs in like 2 hours. And everything besides that was like faster, like almost a lot of techno, a lot of breaks, a lot of like trancey stuff.
Well, even Calvin Harris's single with Ellie Goulding's that like.
So here's okay. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, Calvin Harris is like the Apple of pop music. Okay,
right.
He's either gonna do something best or do it first, or both.
Best.
Right.
You know. So when he came out with that song, I was like, okay, no looking back now. Like this is it. Like we're not looking back. We have to launch this. We have to do our shit our way.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I did. Definitely.
It was so affirming.
Trance is back.
He took a page out of like DJ Sammy's "We're in Heaven" a little bit. I mean, if you listen to those two songs, like it. Not to say that he it's just like there's like a Dance Revolution kind of like.
I was literally just about to say I want an updated DDR now with all of the now songs that are equally
so then
fast.
that's on the brighter side of it, though, of the faster.
But to be honest,
recession.
I get that feedback a lot about our stuff.
DDR.
They're like it's
that
DDR
it feels
type
DDR.
beats,
Well, that's what you were saying. I mean, childhood when you said that, I was like, yeah, back when we called everything techno
Yeah.
because that's all we knew.
Yeah, that's all we knew as
what it
electronic
was.
dance.
dancing
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I think there is like I was just curious how you mentioned like the TikTok techno, and then how you felt like, you know, being self-aware about like, you know, there's going to be spaces in which techno, like the techno heads, you know, but maybe you're the gateway for people to then go deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
right?
it's
That'd
like,
be
we're
great.
not pretending to be the arbiters of like of what is techno and what is not techno. Like, no, please, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that burden. Like,
yeah.
God,
Well,
no.
but obviously TikTok is an important resource then, right?
Yeah.
For like, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Chris, because they were saying the progressive house remixes is kind of how you kind of got started.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just straight up 1-for-1 mashups on TikTok now,
Yeah.
right? So it's like a whole new generation is just discovering the
Discovering
mashups,
Yeah.
right?
mashups,
And it's
yes.
sick. It's cool.
It's
Like,
hilarious to me. I love it. Yeah.
yeah, I remember like reading about the psychological nature of that. Like when you hear two different things that you love individually and you put them together, it's just a brain. it's like-
Serotonin
yeah,
explosion or something?
serotonin explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool that like mashups are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly wish I kept going with that stuff, but I felt like there were just outside pressures, you know, kind of making me feel like I need to go into original music and just stick to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with like the Chromebody stuff, it's kind of getting back into that mindset of just like I don't care where this goes. I just
Yeah.
want serotonin explosions
Literally. Yeah.
constantly.
You can
I mean, we
trademark
need it.
that one.
Serotonin
I'll give that one to you
explosions constantly.
Yeah.
That's what SEC stands for.
I mean, that's a great mentality to have going back, you know, just have fun.
It's all about like nostalgia, just like, you know, with the pandemic, like I just wanted something more. I just didn't want to feel like I was boxed in anymore. So this Chromebody stuff just came at the perfect time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you guys are leaning more into nostalgia right now? Like,
I mean, at least I am.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like
Just
just
a balance.
dance music in general is just a form of escapism, especially for me. And you know, as you get older, it's not to sound dark, but you kind of realize that like, you know, it doesn't necessarily get better, you know? So like
this is good.
That's so
We
dark.
should definitely clip that one. That I want that on the dark TikTok. No,
Yeah,
I do understand. Like that's this is again the response to
two-sided
that nihilism, though. That,
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
maybe this is the response to that nihilism that we're
Two-sided
feeling.
Exactly
coin, though. I
is
think.
that.
Like what you were saying is like maybe it doesn't always get better. I'm on the other side because I've been 30 for like 6 months now, 7 months, and I feel like it's only gotten better. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I've only gotten more appreciative and like had this newfound like love for all the shit that I'm discovering. Like I feel like it's 2014 again. It's crazy.
Well, you can't see that's the
2014
30s.
part 2.
You know, you can't have that really amazing second wind in your 30s or whatever age, you know. And I think that it's just a misnomer.
That's old.
You're
These
laughing.
the old. We sound
But
so
I think
old.
because I think that I
Chris
for
is gonna
whatever
be there in July, so
Soon.
it's
Hey, I'm just saying that
Soon.
you're on TikTok and some people may see it through one lens where they're like, oh man, I'm so washed. You know, they're looking at these young people. Other people are like, I'm like motivated by the youth and excitement that there is, you know, out there. And you can discover things when you're in your 30s. You don't have to stop listening to music.
Yeah.
Do you listen to music?
Yes, not as much as I used to, but definitely I still do.
Because
But
it is rare to listen to
no, it
music
is
when you
rare.
get
And
older.
the thing that I'm thinking about when we're talking about this is like, I keep coming back to the thought of like, if you guys didn't do it, like no one else would be doing it. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think is the unique thing about what you're doing and talking about, like doing these funny remixes from your childhood or from when you were coming up on SoundCloud. Like you look around, you're like, who else would be doing that besides you guys? You know, like
Yeah.
you guys are the guys to do it. So I think
Yeah.
it's cool.
If
And
not us,
obviously
then
there
who?
were so many other people who also came up during those times and also fell in love with dance music and maybe got into techno or trance or whatever. So it's like there's people out there who are gonna love it when they discover it. And again, if you
Also,
if
like,
you guys
it's
didn't make it, then
it's
who
comeback
else would?
season. Like, have you noticed that like every duo or every group that like split up in 2017 or 16 or whatever is like all of a sudden making their comebacks? Justice just announced their comeback,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
True.
New album.
Swedish House Mafia doing their whole.
Yeah.
But did
Okay,
they
look,
ever really go
okay,
away?
I know. Okay, hold on. I know.
That's
Well,
my
there-
thing. I'll put
Did they
there.
ever really break up? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm interested in that because this may be one of the first instances I've ever heard of a duo separating, coming back together as a
Under
new
a different
project.
name.
Yeah.
Have you like? Is
Yeah,
there
right.
anything else that? I mean, I'm just
Okay, so
interested-
okay.
Yeah,
This is a great.
I want to hear your thoughts
This is a
behind
great
that.
talking point.
Yeah.
So we've thought about this with regard to how it affects our growth and how it affects our sort of like trajectory, right? Because people see us as very intensely associated because of, you know, how publicly we've been associated for the better part of the last decade. And as such, we are trying our hardest not to market to the same fans that we've had the whole time. Not to say that we don't like them. Like, sure, yeah, because like I think our most intense overlap group of fans is like obsessed with CHROMEBODIES already, which is great. We love that. But at the same time, I feel like we're going after a different niche. We're going after a different crowd this time.
Yeah.
So really, we're trying not to think too hard about it, but also staying kind of self-aware about it and like making sure that the branding is individual enough and new enough and fresh enough that people don't think, oh, is that just Hotel Garuda back together again?
Yeah, and I had heard, Chris, like, were you thinking about keeping it anonymous for the most part?
Yeah, I talked about it for a bit. I was like, what if we just launch the project, not tell anyone who we are, and just see how it goes? But I think last minute we were just like, fuck it. Fuck it.
Like, well, see, the anonymous thing kind of is a double-edged sword.
Yep.
Because you can generate it, but then, you know, at what point are you going to reveal? Because I think we're so visual with
people love a story too.
Yeah.
I love a story.
I think
I need to know where the music's coming from.
The reason I think we went for, you know, including our faces, including the fact that we were both involved. I think after the pandemic, this middle tier of artists that I think we belong to, I feel like a lot of us just kind of like fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
And now it's like you have to either be the shiny new toy, or you have to be somebody who's already huge to like really, you know, get attention or sell tickets or something like that.
It's hard to get people's attention.
Or play the nostalgia card.
Yeah.
Like, look, I get it. Like, if you're making like prog house, or if you're making stuff that is an obvious nostalgia bait, go for it. More power to you. Get the bag. We are trying to toe a fine line where we, you know, the first post was like, we're back together, and then nothing since then has been like, guys, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? Like, no, none of that. Like,
we'll let you know who we are, but then after that, it's just this whole new thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
But so that is interesting. You do feel like the middle class in electronic music kind of evaporated.
And also because when we launched the project, I mean, we had kept our manager in the dark about it until like the day before we dropped the first song.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because honestly, like, we wanted the creative control to be so intensely guarded by us. And I don't think that's like, I think most artists will resonate with that because, you know, as soon as your team begins to expand, you have other people's voices and other people's creative input diluting your own vision. If it exists to begin with. Because truthfully, I don't think we had one the first time round. We didn't have like a perfect like linear idea of how we wanted the project to evolve and like, you know, take shape or take form past, let's play a couple of shows and like see where it goes. Yeah. And this time around, we have that intensity of vision. We have that clarity of vision. Yeah. So, you know, dealing with the resources that we have, we know we're not at the level where we can drop an unnamed or anonymous project with enough behind the scenes gas to like gas it up to every single person in the industry. Like, we kind of have to we're using our network, we're using our connections, we're using all the things we've gained in the last 10 years of being in this business and being realistic about how we can use them to our advantage.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so exciting too, is that like we have all this knowledge now that we can actually apply. Yeah. Which we didn't have in the past because we were just blindly learning. Just had no idea. So.
You're working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's interesting because I feel like nowadays, like I think about what we're just talking about, like the middle class artist and, you know, having all this knowledge now. And I think about how interesting it must be to be a young artist now or a new artist now. Because it's kind of like both the bad and the good of people now kind of have to do it all themselves, right? Like, to be an artist, you also have to be your own like social media director and like be able to film yourself and edit yourself and all this kind of stuff. But in a way, you're being forced to like consolidate it all, which could be good because what you're talking about, like you're saying so much about how it's important to like keep it all within you guys and like just keep it true to what you guys want to do as artists. So I guess it's both a pro and a con. For kids who are doing it all themselves.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel bad for like up and coming artists because it's just so hard to cut through the noise these days. So I feel super blessed that we've already established that network, and that I feel like that really allowed us to launch CHROMEBODIES in the way we wanted to.
Yeah. We don't have to pray as hard on going viral.
Yeah.
If that makes
Which is
sense.
a
'Cause
really,
I feel
if
like
I
all
can
the younger
imagine.
kids just have to like,
Hope.
I mean, they have to
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
that they get one TikTok that hits 1 million views.
Yeah.
And in the hopes that that one TikTok finds them a manager and then an agent and then yada, yada, yada. So,
Yeah, that's the way in now for sure. So, with that being said, what should people look out for in the near future from CHROMEBODIES? I think there's a lot.
There is a
a
lot.
lot
What
of
can you
music,
share with
tons
us?
of music.
A
Like,
Yeah.
lot of music. So, yeah. So, Sweat Season 1 was just completed, which is those remixes, and then we're coming out with an original. And we're going to do another Sweat Season.
Sweat Season
another
2?
Do you already know
Original?
which remixes are coming up
Yeah.
for number 2?
We
And
have
3 and 4.
3.
Oh,
yeah.
all of them
Yeah.
already?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I made
Pretty
like an
much.
Excel spreadsheet, and we have like
No,
have-
like,
Wait,
you
is
don't-
this a
you
thing?
don't
Are you like
understand.
the
This is
organized
how you
king?
work smarter.
You
Oh,
don't
do
understand.
it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're trying to do this shit so far in advance that like absolutely nothing can fuck up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, unless, you know, extenuating circumstances arise, but like, we're trying to do this shit so perfectly, so aligned with exactly how we want things to play out, that we're planning everything out like 7, 8, 9 months in advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the Excel spreadsheet ready to go.
Well, I
love
do
Yeah.
like that
That's
you
your
guys are having. Now you have all the tools at your disposal to do it the way that you want on your terms. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's a really
Most
cool-
of them.
Most.
Yeah.
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 It's like freeing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I feel free.
I feel
Nice.
freed in the schedule,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a really weird way of saying it, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like when we were, I think our first time round, our first go round of this ringer, I guess, right? We were very much in like a make something, put it out, and then spend the next 3 months trying to figure out what to make next, and then put it out, and then that pattern would repeat. So I feel like we were playing catch up with our own initial viral hype for the entire time we were putting music out.
Yeah.
So now instead of doing that, we're just like sticking to the plan and trusting that the vision will take itself where it needs to go.
Yeah, we're not necessarily looking at how everybody reacts to the music. It's more of just us showing people like this is how it's gonna be. This is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love it. And then a live debut.
At the Brooklyn
At
Mirage.
the
Yeah.
Brooklyn Mirage.
Yeah.
With
Are-
Lewis the Child.
Are
Yeah.
you able to share what you're preparing for that, or is it all going to be
I
show up and check it out? Oh, some whispering. It's like in Shark Tank when someone's like, "All right, I got to just."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Not
so
to take a
our,
deep
our first live set that we just recorded is Club Chrome 001.
Yeah.
Club Chrome 002 will be live recorded at the Mirage.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're super stoked for that. I mean, it's really just gonna be an hour-long mix of the music that we like. Nothing more to it, honestly.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just like so excited to just play this for an actual crowd. I'm curious to see how people react.
It's gonna be weird.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be awesome. If people don't like it, I don't care because
I'm having the best time.
I'm gonna have the best time of my
Yeah.
life playing that
I
music.
know. We got it. I mean, we do have to get you into a sweaty warehouse, so maybe it'll be your own sweaty
We're
warehouse.
working
working
on it. We're working on
Avant-Garner,
it.
though, great place to launch. You know,
We're playing it on the main stage at the Mirage too.
Mirage. Oh, Mirage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that'll
It's
be
funny because
fun.
I like figured we'd be put in the Great Hall or whatever, but they put us on the Mirage, so I was like,
Sick.
sure.
It's gonna be awesome.
I guess
Sure,
so.
I guess I'll
Ah,
play on the
Let me
Mirage
check my
stage.
schedule. I don't know.
Let me check.
Let me check my Excel sheet.
They've got,
me
a
check my
Coachella
Excel.
they've got a Coachella main stage at that club, so
I
you
know,
guys
right?
are
It's
gonna have a
insane.
great time there.
Yeah.
That's just so exciting. I really liked hearing. I wasn't expecting some of the, perspective that you maybe revealed. I think it's really refreshing, honestly.
Yeah, I'm excited
you.
for you guys.
Thank
Like,
you.
it's always fun to see friends and people that I feel like you've spent a lot of years with in music or at shows kind of enter into a new chapter. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for
And
you
honestly,
guys.
it's been very affirming hearing that from our friends and our
Yeah.
colleagues, because, reboots could go one of two ways. And, like, it could go real corny or it could go awesome. And we're hoping it goes awesome. And so far, it's been fun.
But that's
Yeah.
also the thing is, like, I feel like we've reached at least an age or whatever where I'm just proud of people for doing it. Like, I
For
don't
attempting
care.
it,
Like,
right?
it can be
Yeah.
corny, it can be cheesy, but it's like if it makes them happy and they were like sitting at home marinating on it, being like, I'm excited about this, like,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm glad
Yeah.
you get to do it, and
Mhm.
I'm glad there's people who are supporting you. And
I think a
doing that,
case
so.
study, like a modern case study in, like, launching a successful project is that kid Abo,
Uh-huh.
right? Tech House kid.
Yeah, he played a BNL show. Yeah, Abo.
I was there. We played the same one,
Yeah.
with Lewis Child, right?
Mhm.
And number one, sweet kid. Number two, works his ass off, deserves all his flowers, I love you. Number 3, he has like, you know, from the start been very super intentional about how he markets his product, how he makes it. His entire brand is so pinpointed that like you listen to an Abo song, you know it's him. You watch an Abo video and you're like, it's that dude again with one of his songs.
Yeah.
So I think all the sort of tools are there, all of the resources are there for people to like learn from that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing when you're talking about the attention economy right now, like what you're saying, being intentional, being very deliberate and clear about what it is you're doing, what your sound is, the parameters of like the project. That's how you're going to break through. Like if you try to keep switching it for, you know, the goalposts of what's hot, like you just lessen the chance of actually building something. So
I agree.
I'm sure you two know this better than anyone, but it's good to hear that that's kind of like the ethos behind it.
We had to learn it the hard way, to be honest.
Yeah.
We had to learn it by fucking up so many times, dude. So many times. Like I feel like the whole entire first run of our first artist project together was just us fucking around and finding out. You know, now to an extent we are still doing that, but like we've fine-tuned the fucking around.
Yeah. You feel the same way?
Yeah.
Expanded the finding out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
This feels like the topic that pretty much every artist mentions on this show.
Yeah.
It's like, I failed a lot.
You gotta fail.
I failed
I think
absolutely.
when we saw, I think when you had sent us like the snip of the episode with Allison.
Yeah.
She was saying something about failing a lot before.
Oh yeah.
Right. I was like, dog, that's some real shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the real
shit.
takeaway.
Also,
That's
like,
great.
you know, for what it's worth, a 5-year professional break also meant that like our friendship evolved in that time.
Yeah.
And like our friendship evolved, our skills evolved. Both of us leveled up significantly on multiple aspects.
You also lived together during lockdown?
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it kind of sounds like you're talking about like a relationship breakup. You know, you're like you gotta
might
break
as well
up and
have
like
been.
become individually amazing and
We had
then
to
come
find
back
ourselves.
together.
We kind of had to
But
find
like
ourselves too.
that's like legit like what you're just
Yeah,
No,
that's
it's true.
exactly
It's
what
true. Yeah.
And like we came
Wow.
back together, and now we have like this. I mean, I felt like we always had a very like yin and yang sort of relationship where
I see that.
I would kind of fill in the gaps where Chris would leave them, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like in person, I'm a much more sociable, like extroverted person, but on stage, I'm horrible at talking on the mic, and he's the one who talks on the mic.
It's weird.
It's
I don't-
so
Funny
weird.
how
I
that
don't know
happens.
how.
Yeah,
that-
I don't know why that happened.
I don't know why that happened, but that switch flips every time.
Yeah.
But you know, we've kind of just figured out exactly what we're both good at, and we're honest with each other about what we need to work on each.
Yeah.
And
good partnership.
so we both
Yeah.
just play to our skills, play to our strong suits, use the tools that we both make for each other and with each other, and just
Ball.
fuck it, we ball.
Just ball.
We just ball.
Just like
dude.
in 7th grade and using the
Getting
basketball team.
I get
buckets.
I get
Well,
buckets.
we're ready
proud
for
of
sweat
little
season. Get
basketball
that glisten on.
I know. I
Yeah.
can't wait. Thank you guys for coming on the
Thank you,
podcast,
guys.
telling us about it,
Yeah.
and excited for what's to come.
CHROMEBODIES, check it out. If it's out,
It's out.
it's out.
It's out there.